Hello, class of 2024. As a speaker at your high school graduation ceremony, I'm supposed to give you some awesome insights about life. And because, as I'm sure your fantastic English teachers at John Marshall told you, it's often better to speak and write using metaphors and analogies, I'd like to give you my advice about life through the lens of a high school graduation ceremony. This is the only high school graduation ceremony you will ever participate in, so I think it's worth some attention. I'd like to share with you 3 ways that the rest of your lives will be like the graduation ceremony we are participating in right now. The first one is this: sometimes it's okay to fit in. Many people today place a lot of emphasis on individuality and being their unique selves. I think that's a great thing, and I wish that it had been as true of my generation as it is of yours. During this ceremony, however, you're all wearing the same caps and gowns. You are intentionally dressed to look the same. You could see that as hiding your true selves to fit in with the crowd, but I hope you'll see it in another way. In wearing those caps and gowns, you are joining a 1,000-year tradition that goes back to the beginnings of the great universities in Europe in the 12th century. People first started wearing big robes and hats at graduation ceremonies to stay warm, but eventually they started to wear them to differentiate those who had completed higher levels of education from those who had not. So in wearing those caps and gowns today, you are joining one of history's great traditions. And even though you're wearing matching caps and gowns, my guess is that each of you is still dressed in the way you want to under those gowns. At the end of this ceremony, you will all throw those caps in the air and take off your gowns and go back to looking like you want to look. So remember that adapting your appearance or other aspects of your life in order to fit in doesn't necessarily mean you are sacrificing or compromising who you really are. That brings me to the second way that your lives will be like a high school graduation ceremony. Differences don't need to be divisions. We know that people's cultural backgrounds influence how they think, talk, and behave. Differences in cultural norms and traditions can often be observed during high school graduation ceremonies. Families from some cultures recognize the achievement of their graduates something like this: "Yes! Woo!" Other cultures like the one my family comes from express themselves like this when they get really emotional and excited: "Good job there." Both are equally valid expressions of love and pride. I think a graduation ceremony is more interesting and uplifting when it brings together people across differences to celebrate the attainment of a common goal. I think that's true of life as well. Seek out and embrace many forms of diversity in your life, and always remember that we are united by a common humanity. And that brings me to the third and final way that your lives will be like a high school graduation ceremony. What seems long is actually brief. This graduation ceremony has been going on for a while, but we have quite a ways to go before it's done. Among other things, we're going to hear the name of every graduate in your class, and each one of you is going to walk across this stage to receive a diploma. I predict that about halfway through reading the names of the graduates this afternoon, at least some of you are going to think to yourselves, "Can't we speed this thing up a little bit?" That thought definitely occurred to me during my high school graduation way back in June of 1986, when they read all 486 names, I still remember the number, in my graduating class at St. Paul Central High School. But when I think back to that event today, I know that reading all those names didn't really take that long. It was important to read every name to recognize each student's accomplishment and give every family the opportunity to celebrate their student. And I didn't know it at the time, but I'm also glad they read every name, because it turned out that my graduation ceremony was the last time that I ever saw many people that I'd gone to school with for a lot of years. Even though we said goodbye after the ceremony and wrote in each other's yearbooks, like we would see each other again soon, life took us in different directions, and many of us never met in person again. My guess is that at your age, many of you feel like your lives are moving as slowly as a high school graduation ceremony. I understand that because you're young and you're frankly ready to run. But believe me, when you get older and look back at your life, you won't believe how quickly time has flown. In the time since I graduated from high school in 1986, the Cold War ended, the personal computer, the internet, the smartphone were all invented, and we discovered climate change. But despite all the changes that have taken place since I was your age, it honestly seems to me like my high school graduation took place just a few years ago. So speaking of the passing of time, I don't want to make your graduation ceremony any longer, so let me end with 3 wishes that I have for you and your lives. First, I wish for you lives in which you belong to groups, communities, organizations where you truly fit in and you can be and become your best selves, even if you have to wear the same uniforms some of the time or all of the time. Second, I wish you lives that are enriched by relationships and interaction with people who are different from you in many ways. And third, I wish you lives in which you are fully present in every moment, in which you appreciate every experience, go on every adventure, and connect often and authentically with the people who matter most to you. The week after my high school graduation in June of 1986, the classic movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off came out. If you haven't seen it, you should. I want to end my speech at your graduation with the line that Ferris says at the end of that movie. Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. And so class of 2024, let's get on with your graduation so you can move on with the rest of your lives and I can get out of this Harry Potter costume. Thank you.